Hello there, I'm Miguel. My age is 71. To maintain anonymity, I've changed the names of everyone involved in this story, including my own. Alone and invisible in a homeless shelter, I froze to death. However, Jesus met me on the other side with a message about America's homelessness crisis that was so impactful that he sent me back to tell you about it. I passed away in a shelter in downtown Los Angeles on February 12th. I'll explain how I got there. I arrived in the United States from Palestine 30 years ago with a dream in my heart and calluses already on my hands. Since I was 15, I have worked in construction. We used scrap wood and our bare hands to build houses back home. I believed that everything would come to me if I worked hard enough when I arrived in California. And it did for a time. I got consistent work installing tile, repairing roofs, and pouring concrete on construction sites. Each month, I sent money home to my wife, Rosa, and our 2 children, Maria and Carlos. I would do whatever it took, including working extra hours, sleeping in shared quarters, and skipping meals. I missed birthdays and Christmas. I failed to notice the small things. However, I was constructing something for them. I finally brought them here after 6 years. We were given a modest apartment in East Los Angeles. The smell was a combination of bleach and tortillas. Rosa's plastic tablecloth and window plant gave it a homey feel. The children grew up quickly. Carlos was intelligent and inquisitive. Like Rosa, Maria was quiet, but the room came alive when she smiled. However, life gradually wears you down. Construction jobs disappeared like smoke after the 2008 crash. I initially took on odd jobs like painting fences and repairing leaking sinks, but it wasn't enough. Your paycheck is all that matters to landlords, not your effort. We repeatedly fell behind on our rent. I made every effort. I wore nicer clothes and went to job fairs with younger men. I grinned. My back pain was a lie. Even though it was burning my spine, I said, I can lift heavy things. However, doors remain closed if you are over 60 and speak poor English. The pandemic made matters worse. Rosa became impatient. I don't hold her accountable. She was too heavy. She returned to Palestine with Maria after we lost the apartment in 2020. She said she couldn't watch me fall any further. New York was already Carlos's home. I sensed his embarrassment, even though he never expressed it. The way he stopped returning my calls. His avoidance of me during Maria's most recent birthday. Something inside of me simply dimmed after that. I fell asleep in my truck. It was only temporary, I told myself. I continued to shave at the gas station every morning. I continued to pray. Still, I had hope. But when you're cold and hungry and your body isn't functioning as it once did, hope is a delicate thing. The truck was towed one day. Everything was lost, including clothes, tools, and pictures. I ended up on the streets after that. I made an effort to stay clean. I never pleaded. I was too ashamed. You have no idea how invisible homelessness makes you. People ignore you. They tread on you. When they see you close, they lock the doors of their cars. I located a place at a shelter in the heart of the city, an old warehouse filled with rows of metal cots. On some evenings, it seemed like a zoo, people shouting while they're asleep. Employees are too exhausted to give a damn. Mice scurrying along the walls. In February, it mattered that the heater broke down frequently. I was thankful for the roof, though. I mostly kept to myself. But occasionally, I would help someone zip up a shabby jacket or share my crackers with the man next to me. I had my hands, but not much else, and I continued to believe in God. At night, I would pray, usually in Spanish. For genuine prayers, my English was never good enough. Help me, God. I wasn't requesting miracles. All I wanted was to be noticed. I wanted to feel important again. It was 52 degrees that night, February 12th. My bones ached, I recall. Someone had left a thin blanket around me. My toes were numb and my back was burning. All night long, the man in the cot next to me coughed. Despite my best efforts, I was unable to sleep. I prayed as a result. Rosa came to mind. I questioned whether she was all right, if she continued to offer prayers for me, if Maria hated me for not shielding her from this world. I wondered. I wished Carlos could see me as more than a failure, I thought. I muttered once more, "Please forgive me for not being a better father." I then closed my eyes and pulled the blanket tighter. I didn't experience any dramatic feelings, not a lot of noise, not a glimmer of light, nothing but silence, as if I were being drawn into a deep sleep. But I had a gut feeling that something was going on. My heart had stopped beating. However, my story doesn't end there. It's the start of something I never would have thought possible, because everything changed after what I saw and experienced. I must tell you now, because the world must hear it, but I needed you to know who I am before I could tell you what Jesus showed me. Not merely a figure, not just a man on a cot who is homeless, but a worker, a husband, a father, a man who made an effort, a man who didn't succeed, a man who whispered his prayers. And God heard me somehow, despite the darkness and cold. At first, I thought I had fallen asleep. Everything just went quiet. The noise of the shelter, the coughing, the shuffling feet, the metal cots creaking was gone. Even the pain in my back, the cold in my bones, gone. But then something strange happened. I realized I could still think. I could still feel, just not in the way I was used to. There was this floating feeling like I was weightless, like someone had lifted a heavy backpack off me that I'd been carrying my whole life. My eyes were still closed, but I could sense that something wasn't right, or maybe too right. I tried to open my eyes, and when I did, I saw myself. I was lying there on that thin cot, curled up like a child, my lips slightly parted, blanket pulled up to my chin. I looked smaller than I thought, older, fragile. I saw the way my hands rested on my chest, those same hands that used to swing hammers and carry bricks. Now they looked so still. That's when fear crept in. Am I dead? It was the first thought that came, not in words I spoke, but a knowing inside me, a sharp, quiet panic. I looked around. No one in the room seemed to notice. A few people were snoring. A few were coughing. But I was floating above my body like a balloon tied to nothing. And then, just when I thought I might scream or beg to go back, I felt something warm behind me. Not heat like a fire, but a kind of warmth that wrapped around me. It felt like the moment you step inside after being out in the cold too long. It wrapped around my chest and shoulders. It reached into parts of me I didn't even know were hurting. And I heard something, a voice, soft, strong, familiar in a way that brought tears to my eyes before I even turned around. Miguel. Just my name. That's all it said. But the way he said it, like I mattered, like he had always known me, like he had been waiting for me. I turned, and there he was, Jesus. He didn't have a golden crown or glowing face like some paintings show. No, he looked like a man you'd meet on a job site. Broad shoulders, work-worn hands, clothes dusty with sawdust. His eyes were like wells of water, deep and endless, filled with something I hadn't felt in so long, compassion. He stepped closer. I couldn't move. My legs wouldn't work. My chest was shaking. All the guilt, all the shame, everything I had buried inside me began to rise. I fell to my knees, or maybe I just crumpled. I couldn't stop crying. I'm sorry, I whispered, though my lips didn't move. I wasn't good enough. I failed my family. I failed you. He knelt in front of me. He didn't rush. He didn't correct me or list my sins. He just placed his hand on my shoulder, and that one touch broke me open completely, because in that moment, I didn't feel judged. I didn't feel dirty. I didn't feel like the man who slept on a cot and whispered prayers into the dark. I felt seen, fully, lovingly, perfectly. All the walls I had built to protect my heart melted in his presence. I wept like a child in his arms. You were never forgotten, he said, not for a second. And I believed him. The space around us began to change. The cold shelter disappeared. In its place was something beautiful. I was no longer hovering above that room. I was somewhere else entirely. It looked like a small village, simple homes, wooden furniture, smoke curling up from chimneys. There were children laughing in the distance, people talking gently, neighbors helping neighbors. It felt like home, though I had never seen it before. This is just the beginning, Jesus said. I looked around, breathing in peace like it was the first real air I'd ever tasted. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel afraid. We walked in silence for a while. Not the kind of silence that feels awkward or heavy. This was different. It felt full, like the air itself was alive, like it was breathing with us. The little village around us was glowing in warm light. The sun wasn't too bright. The breeze wasn't too cold. The sky looked like the kind you only see in dreams, soft, golden, endless. I saw people sitting together on wooden porches, sharing food, talking, laughing. No one was rushing. No one was alone. There was peace everywhere. Jesus walked beside me like an old friend, not loud, not dramatic, just present. His steps were calm. His hands still had rough lines, hands that had worked, built, touched pain. And yet I could feel strength in them, and love, so much love. We came to a small bench near a garden. It smelled like jasmine and clean earth. He sat down and patted the space beside him. I followed. "You've carried many things, Miguel," he said, looking out toward the distant hills. I nodded. My chest tightened. "I tried," I said quietly. "I really did." He turned toward me, his eyes soft. "I know. I worked so hard for my family, for a better life, and I lost it all." "You lost your home," he said gently, but not your worth. I blinked fast. The tears came before I could stop them. I felt like trash, I whispered, like a failure. My wife left. My son barely speaks to me. I sleep on the street. People don't even look at me. I'm nothing. He didn't interrupt. He let me speak it all out. The shame, the guilt, the emptiness. When I finished, he leaned in. "Miguel," he said, "do you remember the man in the shelter with the broken shoe?" I nodded slowly. "Luis, I gave him my extra socks." "And the woman crying by the food line?" "Anna," I said. "She couldn't find her daughter. I sat with her, prayed with her." Jesus smiled. "You thought those moments were small, but I saw them, every one. They were not small to me." My shoulders shook, but I didn't fix anything. I couldn't even save myself. "You gave comfort," he said, "when you had nothing. You gave kindness when no one saw you. You became my hands in the darkest places." I broke again. There, in the middle of that perfect garden, I wept like I never had before, because he didn't see me as a failure. He saw me as his. After a long silence, he spoke again. "Miguel, I want to show you something." Suddenly, the village faded, and we were standing above a city, Los Angeles, but not like I'd seen it before. It was clearer, sharper, almost like seeing with new eyes. I saw the rows of tents on sidewalks, people curled up in sleeping bags beside busy highways, families in cars, fog on the windows from their breath, a mother trying to brush her daughter's hair with no mirror, a man in a wheelchair holding a cardboard sign no one read. So many people, too many. And then I saw the other side, empty apartments with shining windows, office buildings with no lights on, restaurants throwing out full bags of food. Jesus stood beside me, silent, but I felt his heart break. "They walk past them every day," he said. "My children, forgotten, ignored." I nodded, ashamed. I'd felt that pain. The turning heads, the locked car doors. He continued, "People think homelessness is about laziness or addiction or bad choices. But do they see the mother working 2 jobs who still can't afford rent? The veteran who saw too much and was never the same? The teenager thrown out for being different?" Tears filled my eyes again. I had seen those people. I had been those people. "Most of the world looks away," Jesus said. "But I do not. I live among them. I walk their streets. I sit beside them under bridges. I cry with them when no one else does." My chest felt tight. I wanted to fall to my knees, but he gently placed a hand on my back. "I created a world of enough," he said. "Enough food, enough homes, enough love. But systems were built, ones that feed the few and starve the many. People forgot how to care for each other." "Can it be fixed?" I asked. He looked at me, eyes filled with fire and sorrow. "It can, but not by ignoring, not by blaming. It starts when hearts change, when people begin to see again." I sat down, overwhelmed. "But I'm just one man. What can I do?" He knelt in front of me again, like he had before. "You've already done more than you know," he said, "and I'm asking you to do more. Go back, speak, share what you've seen. Tell them I'm with the poor, with the forgotten, with the ones they step over." I shook my head. "I don't want to leave you." He smiled. "I know." I looked around, the garden, the peace, the love. "This feels like home," I said. "One day it will be," he answered. "But for now, there are still children of mine hurting. Still voices not being heard, still eyes that need to be opened. I closed my eyes. My heart ached. What if they don't listen? I whispered. Some won't, he said simply, but some will, and even one soul awakened is a miracle. I breathed deeply. His presence surrounded me like light and warmth. You are not returning to loneliness, he said. You are returning to purpose. I opened my eyes. Tell them what I showed you, Jesus said. Tell them I was there all along. And just like that, the village began to fade. The colors softened. The air began to shift. No, I whispered. Please, just a little longer. He touched my forehead. I'll never be far. And then everything went dark. The first thing I felt was pain. Cold air in my lungs, a tight pressure in my chest, harsh lights above me, beeping sounds, voices shouting in English, tubes down my throat. Everything was too bright, too loud, too heavy. I tried to move, but I couldn't. My body was stiff, like I had been trapped inside a broken machine. My fingers barely responded. My back ached worse than before. My skin burned with cold. And then I remembered Jesus, the village, the warmth, his eyes, his voice calling my name. I began to cry right there in the hospital bed, not from pain, but from grief, because I had left him. I had left that perfect peace, that love, that feeling of being fully known and fully safe. I wanted to go back more than anything. But then I heard a whisper in my spirit, soft, familiar. You are not returning to loneliness. You are returning to purpose. That's when I knew I had work to do. They told me I was dead for 18 minutes. A shelter staff member had found me unresponsive during a midnight check. Paramedics performed CPR for 12 minutes on the sidewalk outside before my heart started again. No one expected me to survive, but I did. When I could finally speak again, I asked for paper. I began to write everything down, what I saw, what he showed me, what he said. I didn't want to forget even one detail. My body was still weak. I had to learn how to walk again. My hands shook, but my spirit had never felt stronger. Everything looks different now. I don't look at people and wonder what they've done wrong. I look at them and wonder what they've been through. I see their pain before I see their problems. I went back to the same shelter where I died, not as a resident, but as a helper. I started volunteering, handing out socks, sweeping the floor, listening to stories. One man said, "You look familiar." I smiled. I used to sleep in that third cot near the exit. His eyes widened. "I thought you died." I nodded. I did. And then I told him everything. I reconnected with Carlos first, my son. It wasn't easy. I called and he didn't answer. So I left a voicemail. I told him the truth. Not just that I had died, but how empty I had felt before. How sorry I was. How I had believed lies about what made me valuable. He called me back 3 days later. We both cried. He said he was sorry for pushing me away. He said he had been angry, but mostly hurt, seeing his father go from strong provider to someone people avoided on the street. Now we talk every week. He's planning a visit. He wants to walk the streets of LA with me and serve meals to the homeless together. I also wrote to Rosa. It took me a while to find the right words. What do you say to the woman who once shared your whole world, then watched it fall apart? But I told her everything about Jesus, about the vision, about how I finally understood her pain, her fear, her decision to leave. She wrote back. Her letter was short, but full of grace. She said she had been praying for me all these years. She sent a photo of Maria, grown up now, smiling with her mother. She said she would like to come visit someday. I've become a voice now, not a preacher, not a perfect man, just a man who saw Jesus and can't stay quiet about it. Churches have invited me to share my story. I stand there in borrowed clothes with a trembling voice, and I tell the truth. That homelessness isn't just about tents and sidewalks. It's about the heart. It's about a world that's forgotten how to see each other. I say, Jesus walks the streets every day, and most people don't even recognize him. My priorities have changed. Before, I thought being a man meant always providing, always pushing through pain, never asking for help. Now, I know better. Now, if someone asks me to sit and talk, I sit, even if I'm busy. If someone needs a ride, I give it, even if it's out of the way. If my back hurts, I rest. If my son calls, I don't say, later. I say, I'm here. Relationships over routine. Love over pride. Presence over performance. One day, I met a teenage boy near the shelter. He was shivering, scared, hiding his face with his hoodie. I sat next to him, gave him a sandwich, and asked his name. Luis, he said. He told me he'd run away from home. Said his dad hit him. Said he had nowhere to go. I looked at him and said, I know what it's like to feel invisible, but you're not. Jesus sees you, and he loves you more than you can imagine. He started to cry, and so did I. I live with eternity in mind now, not in a distant churchy way, but in every little moment. Every face I see might be the one Jesus wants me to love today. And I know now, this life is not the whole story. One day, I'll be back in that village. One day, I'll sit on that bench again. I'll feel that peace again. I'll hear my name in his voice again. But until then, I walk these streets with new eyes. To anyone reading this, maybe you've felt forgotten. Maybe you think you've messed up too much. Maybe life has taken everything from you, and all you can do is whisper, God, help me. Let me tell you, he hears that whisper. He heard mine on a frozen night in a crowded shelter. He came to me, he called my name, and he gave me a mission to remind the world that the homeless are not trash. They are not broken beyond repair. They are his children, and so are you. No matter where you are, how far you've fallen, or how cold the world has been to you, you are seen, you are loved, and you are not alone. Jesus walks with us, especially in the places the world forgets. And now I walk with him.